Caleb walked into family court with his mistress on his arm and a custody petition in his hand. Vanessa smiled at my baby as if she had already chosen the curtains for the nursery she planned to steal from me. I shifted Lily higher against my chest, saved the last message from my lawyer, and let them believe I had come alone. The courthouse hallway was too bright, too polished, too quiet for the kind of cruelty that had just walked through its doors. Caleb wore the navy suit I had bought him 2 Christmases ago, the one he used to say made him look like a man who could be trusted. Vanessa wore cream, soft and expensive, with her hair brushed over one shoulder and a diamond ring on her right hand that glittered every time she touched Caleb's sleeve. They looked like a couple arriving for an engagement photo shoot, not a custody hearing over the baby he had ignored until taking her became useful. Lily stirred in my arms, her tiny fist pressed against my collarbone. Vanessa's eyes dropped to her. "Oh," she said, her voice sweet enough to rot teeth. "She looks tired, poor thing. Court is no place for a baby." I looked at Caleb. "Then you should have withdrawn your petition." His jaw tightened, but Vanessa laughed softly. "She'll have a calmer life soon," Vanessa said. "Once everything is settled, everything, my daughter, my home, my marriage, my name, my body after childbirth, my nights without sleep, my bank account, my sanity, my grief, they had turned all of it into paperwork and expected me to sign." Quietly, Caleb stepped closer, lowering his voice so only I could hear him. "Evelyn, don't make this uglier than it has to be. You know you can't do this alone." I glanced past him toward the courtroom doors. Alone, that was the word he had built his whole case on. I had no family, he said, no steady income. He said, no emotional control. He said, no future stable enough for Lily. He said, he forgot I had spent months learning the difference between being abandoned and being alone. One was what he had done to me, the other was what I had stopped being the moment I stopped protecting him. My phone buzzed once in my coat pocket. "Nora Bennett, we are ready." I did not smile, I did not raise my voice. I did not remind Caleb of the nights he never came home, the hospital forms he never signed, the rent he paid for Vanessa while I counted diapers and formula scoops. I simply looked down at Lily, kissed the warm crown of her head and stepped around them toward the courtroom. Behind me, Vanessa whispered, "She really came by herself." No, I came prepared. The first thing I noticed about Vanessa Cole that morning was her lipstick. Not her dress, not the shine of her hair, not the careful way she held Caleb's arm like she had practiced the angle in a mirror. Her lipstick was the exact shade she had left on a wine glass in my kitchen 6 months earlier. The night Caleb told me I was paranoid. I had been 7 months pregnant then. My ankles had swollen so badly I could barely bend over, and I had found the glass beside the sink when I came home early from a prenatal appointment. There had been 2 plates in the dishwasher, 1 fork with lipstick at the tip, and the faint scent of perfume that did not belong to me. Caleb had laughed when I asked him about it. "Evelyn, you're tired," he had said. "Pregnancy is messing with your head." That morning in family court, Vanessa wore the same color on her mouth as if she wanted me to remember. I did. I remembered everything. The courthouse smelled like floor cleaner, burnt coffee and nervous sweat. Parents sat on benches with folders on their laps. Lawyers whispered near security. A little boy in a dinosaur sweatshirt kicked his heels against a chair while his mother stared at the wall like she was holding herself together with thread. I stood near the end of the hallway with Lily asleep against me, wrapped in the pale yellow blanket I had bought at the hospital gift shop because Caleb had forgotten the bag I packed. Her cheek rested against my sweater. Every breath she took was small and damp and real. She had no idea that 3 adults were about to sit in front of a judge and argue over where she belonged. My lawyer, Nora Bennett, was not beside me yet. She had gone to file a supplemental exhibit, the final piece we had received less than 12 hours earlier. I had told her I could wait alone. I was not afraid of waiting. I had waited through unanswered calls while I was in labor. I had waited through nights when Caleb said he had late meetings and came home smelling like Vanessa's perfume. I had waited for him to become a father after Lily was born. Waiting had taught me one thing. People reveal themselves when they think you have no other choice. Caleb walked in at 8:42 a.m. I knew the time because I looked down at my phone the second the hallway seemed to change. His presence used to affect me before I understood why. A room would tighten, my shoulders would lift, my thoughts would arrange themselves around his mood. If he was tired, I became quiet. If he was irritated, I became careful. If he was charming, I became grateful. Now I just noticed the time. He came through security first, handing his phone to the officer with impatient confidence. Vanessa followed, stepping lightly, as if the courthouse were beneath her but the audience pleased her. Caleb's lawyer, Martin Price, walked behind them with a leather briefcase and the expression of a man who billed by the minute and enjoyed making people feel poor. Caleb saw me and paused. For 1 second I saw the flicker: surprise, discomfort, maybe guilt. Then Vanessa slipped her hand around his arm and the moment vanished. He straightened. "Evelyn," he said. "Caleb." Vanessa leaned forward, her eyes widening at Lily. "She's so tiny." I moved Lily slightly away before Vanessa's fingers could touch her blanket. Her smile tightened. "I was only being kind." "No," I said. "You were reaching for my child without permission." A woman on the bench near us looked up. Caleb's nostrils flared. "Don't start." "I didn't." Vanessa lifted a glossy shopping bag. "We brought something for Lily, a cashmere baby blanket. It's better than that one, softer." I looked at the bag, then at her. "She doesn't need anything from you, Evelyn." Caleb's voice dropped into the tone he used when he wanted me to feel unreasonable. "This is exactly what I'm talking about." "What are you talking about?" "Hostility, instability, refusing basic kindness." Vanessa's smile returned, small and practiced. "I understand this is hard for you, but we all have to think about Lily now." The word came out quiet that made it sharper. Caleb shifted. "Vanessa is part of my life. She was part of your life while I was pregnant." His face changed, not enough for strangers to notice, but enough for me. He had not expected me to say it in public. Martin Price stepped closer. "Mrs. Whitman, I would advise you not to make inflammatory accusations in a courthouse hallway." I turned to him. "It's Ms. Hart now." Caleb let out a short breath. "You haven't changed it legally yet." "I filed last week." His eyes snapped to mine. That was the first crack of the morning. Vanessa recovered faster. "Names don't matter. What matters is Lily's stability." I almost laughed. Stability was apparently arriving in family court with another woman and trying to take a baby from the mother who had slept beside her bassinet every night since birth. But I had promised Nora I would not give them anything they could use, so I adjusted Lily's hat instead. Caleb glanced down at my diaper bag. It was canvas, grey, practical. One side pocket held a bottle, the other held folded medical records, copies of vaccination appointments, and a USB drive sealed in a plastic evidence sleeve. He saw none of that. He saw a tired woman with a baby. "Good. You came alone," he said softly. I looked at him. "Did I?" His mouth curved with something close to pity. "Evelyn, please don't perform. I know your father hasn't spoken to you in years. Your friends are tired. You quit your job. You don't have the support you need." I felt Lily's fingers open against my sweater. For a moment, the hallway blurred into another room, another night. Caleb standing over me while I sat on the nursery floor surrounded by unopened diapers. "You're not thinking clearly," he had said then. "You need me." Back then I had believed him because exhaustion makes a cage look like shelter. Now I only heard the strategy. No support, no money, no emotional stability, no chance. Vanessa stepped closer, lowering her voice to a fake whisper. "You don't have to lose everything today. Caleb is still willing to be generous." I looked at her hand on Caleb's sleeve. "Generous with what?" "The marital funds he used to pay your rent." Her fingers went still. Caleb's face hardened. "Careful." That one word landed between us like an old threat. I had heard it before. Careful when I asked why he locked his phone. Careful when I questioned the hotel receipt. Careful when I cried after he missed Lily's first pediatric appointment and he told me I was making fatherhood unpleasant for him. Careful used to mean stop before I punish you emotionally. Today it meant nothing. Nora's heels sounded behind me. "Evelyn," she said. She had a calm voice, a dark green suit, and the kind of posture that made aggressive men check their volume. She did not look at Caleb first. She looked at Lily, then at me. "All set?" "Yes." Martin Price smiled. "Nora, always dramatic with last-minute filings." Nora gave him a pleasant look. "Only when the other side hides relevant facts." Caleb's eyes narrowed. "What facts?" "You'll hear them when the judge does," Nora said. Vanessa gave a soft laugh, too light. "This feels unnecessary. We're all adults." Nora finally turned to her. "Ms. Cole, you are not a party to this custody matter." Vanessa's cheeks colored under her makeup. Caleb stepped in. "She's here as my support, and potentially as a witness." Nora said, "So I recommend she be careful." There it was again, careful, only this time the word faced the other direction. The courtroom doors opened. A clerk called our case, Whitman versus Hart, custody and temporary orders. My name sounded strange after his, like something being separated cleanly with a blade. Caleb moved first, guiding Vanessa toward the door. Martin followed. Before they entered, Vanessa looked back over her shoulder and said, "Lily deserves a complete family." I looked down at my daughter. "She had one," I said. "Your side broke it." Then I walked into the courtroom. Inside, the air was colder. Wooden benches faced the front. The judge's chair sat elevated beneath the seal. The room did not care about my heartbreak. That was why I trusted it more than Caleb's apologies. A courtroom did not need to love me, it needed proof. I sat at the petitioner's table with Nora. Caleb and Martin sat across from us. Vanessa took a seat directly behind Caleb, crossing one leg over the other, her cream dress arranged perfectly around her knees. She wanted to be seen. I wanted the truth to be seen. The judge entered. We stood. Lily stirred, and I pressed my lips to her temple. "Good morning," Judge Marin said. She was in her 50s with silver hair pulled back and reading glasses low on her nose. "We are here on Mr. Whitman's petition for temporary primary custody of the minor child, Lily Grace Whitman, 3 months old." Hearing Lily's full name in that voice made my stomach twist. Caleb had insisted on his last name in the hospital even though he missed the first 18 hours after her birth. "It's tradition," he had said. "I had been too weak to fight." "Not today." Judge Marin glanced at our tables. "I understand emotions are high. I expect restraint, relevance, and honesty." Caleb looked at me when she said restraint. I looked at the judge. "Mr. Price," she said, "you may begin." Martin rose, buttoning his suit jacket. "Your Honor, my client is a successful, stable, financially secure father who is deeply concerned about the welfare of his infant daughter. Since the separation, Ms. Hart has demonstrated erratic behavior, financial instability, and an unwillingness to cooperate. We will show that Mr. Whitman can provide a safer, calmer, more structured environment." He paused just enough for the words to settle. Safer, calmer, structured. Vanessa leaned forward behind him, her lipstick bright under the courtroom lights. My daughter slept in my arms, unaware that people were trying to make motherhood sound like a performance review. Martin continued, "This is not an attempt to punish Ms. Hart, it is an effort to protect Lily." I felt Nora write one word on her legal pad, protect. She underlined it once. Then Caleb looked at me across the aisle, and his expression said what his lawyer did not. "You should have settled." I tucked Lily closer. "No, Caleb, you should have remembered who kept the receipts." Martin Price built Caleb's case like a house staged for sale. Everything ugly was hidden behind fresh paint. He talked about Caleb's income first, because men like Caleb believed money was character once it reached a certain number. He described the house in Westbrook with its fenced yard, its nursery, its security system, its proximity to highly rated schools, as if Lily were applying to kindergarten instead of still learning to hold her head up. He did not mention that the nursery had been empty until 3 weeks after I left. He did not mention that I had bought the crib, washed the sheets, arranged the tiny clothes by size, and sat on the floor at midnight assembling a mobile while Caleb drank champagne at a hotel bar with Vanessa. He showed the judge photographs of Caleb's home, sunlit living room, white crib, changing table, a shelf of untouched board books. The photos looked beautiful. I knew they had been taken after I moved out. The stuffed elephant on the crib was still wearing the store tag. "Mr. Whitman has prepared a safe and welcoming environment," Martin said. Nora made another note. "Staged." Then came the attack. Martin submitted screenshots of text messages I had sent Caleb in the first month after Lily's birth. "I can't keep doing this alone. Please answer your phone. She has a fever and I'm scared. I haven't slept in 2 days. I need help." He read them in a tone that made fear sound like instability. "Your Honor, these messages show Ms. Hart was overwhelmed and emotionally volatile." My fingers tightened around Lily's blanket. I remembered sending the fever message at 2:13 a.m. Lily had been hot against my skin, her breath fast, her tiny body curled in discomfort. I had called Caleb 7 times. He did not answer. Later, Nora would show where he had been, but not yet. Courtrooms had rhythm. Nora had warned me about that. Let them overreach. She had said, people who lie too much usually walk themselves into the trap. So I sat still. Martin clicked a remote, and a video appeared on a screen near the judge. My living room, the corner of the couch, my face pale and swollen with exhaustion. Lily crying in my arms, I was crying too, silently, my hair falling loose around my face. I looked hollow, I looked frightened. I knew the video. Caleb had recorded it without telling me that night. He had walked in after midnight while I was trying to soothe Lily through colic. I had asked him to take her for 10 minutes so I could shower. Instead, he stood in the doorway with his phone angled downward. "You need to see yourself," he had said in the video. My voice cracked. "Please stop recording me." The courtroom was silent. Vanessa lowered her eyes like she was embarrassed for me. Caleb looked wounded, as if my pain had inconvenienced him. Martin let the video play another few seconds before stopping it. "Your Honor, this is the type of environment my client is concerned about." My face burned, not from shame exactly. Shame had been Caleb's favorite tool, and I had spent too many nights cleaning it out of my body. This was something sharper, anger with a spine. Judge Marin looked at me not unkindly. "Ms. Hart, are you all right to continue?" I lifted my chin. "Yes, Your Honor." Lily stirred. I shifted her gently, keeping my voice steady. Martin continued, "We also intend to show that Ms. Hart has alienated Mr. Whitman from the child by refusing reasonable visitation." Nora looked up. "Objection, mischaracterization. The existing temporary arrangement required Mr. Whitman to confirm visits 24 hours in advance. He failed to do so on multiple occasions." Martin smiled thinly. "We dispute that." "I'm sure you do," Nora said. Judge Marin glanced over her glasses. "Ms. Bennett," withdrawn. But the judge had heard it. Caleb leaned toward Martin and whispered something. Vanessa placed a hand on his shoulder, a soft little performance of support. The diamond on her finger flashed again. It was not an engagement ring, not officially. Caleb was too careful for that while the divorce was still pending. But Vanessa wore it on purpose. She wanted me to look, so I did. And I remembered the bank transfer for $12,000 to a jeweler 2 days before Caleb told me there was no money for night nursing help. Martin called Caleb first. He took the stand with the controlled sadness of a man who had rehearsed being misunderstood. "Mr. Whitman," Martin said, "can you describe your concerns regarding Ms. Hart's ability to care for Lily?" Caleb exhaled slowly. "I want to start by saying Evelyn is not a bad person." That was how Caleb always began a public cruelty, a compliment at the door, a knife in the hallway. "She's been under a lot of pressure. After Lily was born, she became anxious, suspicious, she isolated herself, she refused help." My mouth almost opened. Refused help, I had begged. Nora's pen touched her notepad once, a reminder. "Wait," Caleb continued. "I tried to be patient, but she made it impossible. She accused me of things. She wouldn't let me see my daughter unless I followed unreasonable rules." Martin nodded. "What kind of rules?" "She wanted everything in writing. She wanted times confirmed. She wouldn't let me bring anyone with me." "Anyone?" Caleb hesitated. "Vanessa." Martin glanced toward Vanessa with careful sympathy. "Why did you want Ms. Cole present?" Caleb's face softened toward the judge. "Lily is going to have people in my life. I don't think it's healthy for Evelyn to control that out of jealousy." Jealousy, that old little word, it could shrink a woman's evidence into emotion if the wrong people believed it. Martin asked, "Did Ms. Hart ever make statements suggesting she was unable to cope?" Caleb nodded. "Many times. She said she couldn't do it, she said she was breaking, she said she hated her life." My throat tightened. I had said those words after 3 nights without sleep when Caleb had come home at dawn and complained the apartment smelled like milk. I had not hated Lily. I had hated being abandoned beside her. Martin lowered his voice. "Did that frighten you?" "Yes," Caleb said. "For Lily." Vanessa dabbed beneath one eye with her finger. I stared at her until she looked away. Then Nora stood. "Mr. Whitman," she said, walking to the lectern, "you testified that Ms. Hart isolated herself, correct?" "Yes." "And refused help?" "Yes." "And that you were concerned enough to seek primary custody?" "Yes." Nora looked down at her file. "Where were you on March 18th at 2:13 a.m. when Ms. Hart texted you that Lily had a fever?" Caleb blinked. Martin shifted. "Objection, relevance. Goes directly to Mr. Whitman's claim that my client refused help." Judge Marin nodded. "Overruled." Caleb cleared his throat. "I don't remember exactly." Nora clicked her pen. "Would a hotel receipt refresh your memory?" Vanessa's head lifted. Caleb's expression froze. Nora held up a document but did not approach yet. She let the silence do some Work, Mr. Whitman, she said. Were you at the Alder Hotel with Ms. Cole while your 3-week-old daughter had a fever and her mother was calling you for help? Martin stood. Your Honor. Judge Marin looked at Caleb. Answer the question. Caleb's jaw moved once. I had a work event, at 2:13 a.m. It ran late. Nora nodded as if that made perfect sense. And Ms. Cole was part of that work event. Vanessa's hand slipped from Caleb's shoulder. Caleb said, yes. Nora looked toward the screen where the video of me crying had been displayed. Your Honor, we will return to the video, Mr. Price introduced. We believe the context matters. The judge's eyes sharpened. I hope so. Nora turned a page. Mr. Whitman, when you recorded Ms. Hart crying while holding Lily, had you just returned after being unreachable for nearly 6 hours? Caleb did not answer quickly enough. The room noticed. I don't recall, he said. Nora smiled without warmth. That appears to be happening a lot. Martin objected, sustained, but Caleb's polished house had its first visible crack. When the judge called a short recess 20 minutes later, Caleb stood too fast. Vanessa whispered something to him, and he shook his head hard. I remained seated because Lily was waking, her tiny face scrunched, her mouth opening in protest. I reached into the diaper bag for a bottle. Vanessa approached while Nora spoke with the clerk. You're making this worse for yourself, she whispered. I didn't look up. You should sit down. You think a few receipts prove you're stable. He has money, he has a home, he has a future. I tested the bottle on my wrist. He also has a mistress who thinks family court is a place to audition. Her smile vanished. For the first time that morning, I saw the woman beneath the cream dress, hard, hungry, angry. You lost him, she said. I fed Lily, watching my daughter's small hand curl around my finger. No, I said, I returned him. Vanessa leaned close enough that her perfume pressed into my lungs. When this is over, Lily will be in our home, she said, and she will learn who stayed calm and who fell apart. I looked at her then. You just said our home. Her eyes flickered. I shifted Lily with one arm and used my free hand to tap the screen of the phone lying face up on the table between my legal folders. The voice memo app was open. Recording. Vanessa stared at it. The blood drained from her cheeks. Nora returned at exactly that moment, looked at my phone, then at Vanessa. How generous of you, Nora said. Vanessa stepped back across the aisle. Caleb watched us, confused. For once he did not know what had just happened. That used to terrify me. Now it felt like oxygen. The first time Caleb missed a doctor's appointment, I made an excuse for him before anyone asked. He got stuck at work. I told the nurse I was 26 weeks pregnant. Sitting on the edge of an exam table with cold gel on my belly and one hand gripping my phone, the ultrasound room was dim. The screen showed Lily's tiny profile, her nose, her curled fist, the rapid flicker of her heart. The nurse smiled kindly. Do you want me to print an extra picture for him? Yes, I said too quickly. Please. Caleb had not texted. Later that evening, he came home with a bottle of wine and a new watch. I stood in the kitchen holding the ultrasound photo like proof of something sacred. He kissed my cheek, glanced at it and said, cute, cute. Then his phone rang and he stepped onto the balcony. I watched him through the glass door. His shoulders relaxed. He laughed softly, not the tired laugh he gave me, not the polite laugh he used for clients. This one had warmth in it. I told myself not to be dramatic. That was the phrase I swallowed most often during my pregnancy. Don't be dramatic. When he forgot the appointment, when he stopped touching me, when I found a receipt for 2 dinners at a restaurant he said he hated, when Vanessa's name appeared on his screen at 11:47 p.m. under the label VC work, when his mother Diane told me men needed peace during pregnancy too. Don't make every little thing about you, she said over lunch one afternoon while I tried not to fall asleep into my soup. Caleb is under pressure. You should be grateful he provides. Provides. He had started using the word too. I provide, he would say whenever I asked for presents instead of money. What more do you want? I did not know how to explain that love was not a mortgage payment, that fatherhood was not a direct deposit, that I did not want a luxury stroller if I had to push it alone. So I stopped asking in ways that sounded emotional. I made lists. Hospital bag, pediatrician options, insurance forms, daycare wait lists, feeding supplies, postpartum care, emergency contacts. Under emergency contact, I wrote Caleb first. Then I stared at the page for a long time. My father's name sat in my memory like a locked door. Richard Hart. I had not called him in almost 3 years. The last real conversation we had was after my wedding. He had stood in the hotel garden, still wearing his tuxedo, looking at me with the sorrow of a man watching his daughter walk into the storm she called sunlight. He does not respect your strength, my father had said. You don't know him, I snapped. I know men who enjoy being needed. I had taken that as an insult to Caleb. Worse, I had taken it as an insult to myself. You never liked anyone I chose, I said. My father's mouth tightened. Because you choose people who make you work for crumbs. I left angry. Caleb found me crying in the bridal suite and said exactly what I wanted him to say. He's controlling you. I'm your family now. I believed him. That was how isolation entered my life. Not with locked doors, with comforting words spoken by someone who benefited from every bridge I burned. By the time Lily was born, the bridge to my father felt too far to cross. Labor started during a thunderstorm. I woke at 3:20 a.m. with pain across my back and the strange certainty that my life had split into before and after. Caleb was not home. He had told me he had a late dinner with investors. I called him once from the bathroom floor. No answer. I called again while timing contractions. No answer. By the 4th call, my hands were shaking too badly to hold the phone. I took a ride share to the hospital. The driver, a woman named Marisol, kept looking at me in the rearview mirror. Honey, should I call someone? I did. I said it was not a real answer. At the hospital, a nurse named Grace helped me into a gown. She asked where my support person was. On his way. I lied. Grace did not challenge me. She had kind eyes. Nurses see too much to need explanations. Lily arrived after 18 hours. Caleb arrived after 21. By then I had already held my daughter against my chest and whispered, "It's you and me." Before I understood how true it would become, he entered the room with damp hair, fresh clothes, and flowers from the lobby gift shop. Not the flowers I liked, the cheap mixed bouquet near the checkout desk. I came as soon as I could, he said. Grace was checking Lily's vitals. Her expression did not change, but her hand paused for half a second. I noticed, so did Caleb. He kissed my forehead in front of her. You did amazing. I wanted to believe him so badly that for 1 hour I did. Then his phone buzzed on the rolling tray beside my hospital bed while he was in the bathroom. Vanessa, is she here yet? I hate sleeping alone. I stared at the message until the screen went dark. When Caleb came out, I asked, "Who is Vanessa?" He looked at the phone, then at me, then at Lily in the bassinet. "You went through my phone while our daughter is sleeping next to you." That was how he did it. He took the knife and placed it in my hand. By the time we left the hospital, I had apologized, not because I believed I was wrong, because I was bleeding, stitched, afraid, and holding a newborn in a car seat while Caleb drove too fast and refused to speak. The weeks that followed were a blur of milk, pain, and fluorescent kitchen light at impossible hours. Caleb slept in the guest room. For work, he said, "I need rest." Lily did not care about his meetings. She needed feeding every 2 hours. She needed burping, changing, rocking, soothing. She needed a mother whose body was still healing and whose husband walked past the nursery door like love was contagious. Sometimes I would stand in that doorway with Lily in my arms and watch him leave for work, his suit pressed, his watch gleaming, his face irritated if the baby cried too loudly. "You need to get a handle on this," he said once. "This is a newborn, Caleb. Other women manage." I wondered which women he had been asking. Then the money started to look wrong. Not missing exactly. Caleb was too smart for obvious theft. But transfers appeared from our joint account into business expense categories I did not recognize: consulting, event support, rental advance, discretionary client management. I had managed budgets before Lily. I knew how people hid spending when they believed the person reading the statements was too tired to add. One night at 4:08 a.m. after Caleb failed to answer during Lily's fever, I opened my laptop while she slept in short, restless bursts. Against my chest, the apartment was dark except for the screen. I downloaded 3 months of bank records, then 6, then 12. I created a folder called Lily. Inside it, I created another folder called Evidence. My hand shook when I named it, not because I felt guilty, because some part of me understood that naming the folder meant naming the marriage. I saved everything: bank statements, texts, photos, pediatric appointment records, screenshots of missed calls, emails from Caleb saying he was too busy to attend medical visits, receipts for hotel bars, Doorbell footage from nights Vanessa entered our building while I was at postpartum checkups. The doorbell camera had been Caleb's idea. For safety, he had said he forgot I had the login. The night I stopped explaining was not the night I found the worst evidence. It was quieter than that. Lily was 5 weeks old. I was sitting on the nursery floor trying to fold Onassis with one hand while holding her with the other. Caleb came home at 12:34 a.m. Vanessa's perfume arrived before he did. I looked up and said, "I need you to be honest." He sighed like I had asked him to carry a mountain. "Not tonight." "Yes, tonight." He loosened his tie. "You're obsessed." "I know about the hotel." His eyes sharpened. "I know about the rent payments," I said, "the jewelry, the restaurant, the messages." For a moment he looked almost relieved, not guilty, relieved that the game had changed. Then he said, "Fine, you want honesty. You're not the woman I married anymore." I looked down at Lily. "I had a baby. You became bitter," he said, "suspicious, needy. Vanessa understands me." There it was, the name in the room, not a shadow, a person. I expected myself to break. Instead, I became very still. Caleb mistook that for weakness. "I think we need to discuss separation," he said, "and custody. I won't let you use Lily to punish me." I laughed once. It sounded strange, dry, almost calm. "You disappeared for most of her life. She's 5 weeks old." "Exactly." He stepped closer. "Careful, Evelyn, if this gets ugly, you won't win. You don't have the money, you don't have your father, you don't have anyone who can stand up in court and say you're stable." There it was, the plan, spoken too early. I looked at him for a long moment, then I picked up my phone. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Making notes." His mouth twisted. "For what?" "For the future." He laughed and went to the guest room. I sat on the nursery floor until sunrise, Lily asleep against my chest, and wrote down every word. He said at 7:12 a.m. I opened my contacts. My father's number was still there. I did not call him, not yet. But I stopped deleting the thought. Vanessa asked to meet me at a coffee shop with marble tables, glass pendant lights, and pastries arranged like jewelry. It was the kind of place where women ordered oat milk lattes and men in expensive coats pretended not to look at other men's watches. I arrived 5 minutes early because Lily had fallen asleep in the stroller and I had learned to treat infant sleep like weather. You moved when the sky allowed it. Vanessa was already there, of course she was. She sat by the window in a camel coat with gold buttons, stirring a cappuccino she had not drunk. When she saw me, her smile bloomed carefully. "Evelyn," she said, "thank you for coming. I came because you said it was about Lily." "It is." I parked the stroller beside my chair and sat without removing my coat. Lily slept under the canopy, one tiny socked foot visible beneath the blanket. Vanessa looked at her foot and sighed. "She really is beautiful." I said nothing. The old version of me would have filled the silence. I would have tried to seem polite, reasonable, above jealousy. I would have hated myself for caring what Vanessa thought and still cared anyway. That version of me had been exhausted. This one had a phone in her coat pocket with the recorder already running. Vanessa lowered her voice. "I know you hate me. I don't know you well enough to hate you." That irritated her. "Good, I understand why you're angry," she said. "But Caleb and I didn't plan this. You didn't plan to sleep with a married man while his wife was pregnant." Her eyes flicked toward the table beside us. A man typing on a laptop did not look up, but his fingers paused. Vanessa leaned forward. "Relationships are complicated. Adultery usually is." Her smile thinned. "Fine, if you want to be harsh, we can be harsh." Caleb was lonely. I stared at her. "Lonely? You shut him out." "I was pregnant. You made everything about the baby." I almost admired the cruelty of that. Almost. Lily shifted in the stroller, making a small sound. I reached down and adjusted her blanket. Vanessa watched the movement. "That's what I mean," she said softly. "You disappear into motherhood. Caleb needs a partner, someone who sees him." I looked back at her. "You saw him so clearly that you missed the wedding ring." Her cheeks colored. "Caleb told me your marriage was over." "It wasn't over when he was in my bed." Her lips parted, then closed. I let the silence sit. She took a breath, choosing a different strategy. "I didn't ask you here to fight." "Then why did you?" "Because court will be painful for everyone. And I think it would be better if you accepted reality now." "What reality?" "That Caleb can give Lily more." There it was, the reason, not love, not concern. More money, more house, more image, more polished family photos where Vanessa could stand in a white dress and hold a baby she had not carried. I leaned back. More what? A stable Home, she said, a father who can provide, a mother figure who isn't drowning. The words were rehearsed. I could almost hear Caleb's lawyer behind them. Mother figure, I repeated. Vanessa's hand tightened around her spoon. You know what I mean. I want to hear you say it. She hesitated. I looked toward the stroller. Lily is sleeping, speak freely. That did it. Vanity pushed her past caution. I mean someone who can help raise her without making every day a crisis, Vanessa said. Someone calm, someone presentable, someone who doesn't cry on the floor while holding an infant. My pulse kicked once. I kept my face still. Did Caleb show you that video? Her eyes widened, then narrowed. He was worried. He recorded me instead of helping. He didn't know what else to do. He could have taken the baby for 10 minutes. Vanessa looked away. She knew, of course she knew. Women like Vanessa knew exactly what men like Caleb were. They simply believed the cruelty would remain pointed at someone else. She lifted her cup. Look, I'm not trying to replace you. No, but Lily will spend time with Caleb and I will be there. It would be healthier if you stopped treating me like some temporary mistake. I felt the small red recording light through the fabric of my coat pocket, as if it had heat. How long have you been in Caleb's home? I asked, her eyes sharpened. Why, curious. That's between Caleb and me. Was it between you and Caleb when I was still living there? She looked at me for a long beat, then she smiled. Do you really want to know? Yes, I was there more than you think. My stomach tightened, but I did not move. While I was at medical appointments, sometimes, while I was in the hospital. Don't be dramatic. There was that phrase again, passed from Caleb to Diane to Vanessa like a family heirloom. Vanessa continued. You and Caleb were already broken. I just gave him a place to breathe. No, I said. He gave you our money, our time, and my place in his life while I was carrying his child. She shrugged delicately. And now? He wants Lily protected from all this bitterness. All this bitterness meaning me, meaning your inability to accept that things changed. A waitress approached with a polite smile, then sensed the air and retreated without asking about refills. Vanessa lowered her voice. Evelyn, I'm going to be honest, Caleb will win. Maybe not everything, but enough. He has the house, he has income, he has his mother. He has people who will testify that you're unstable. People. She paused. That pause mattered. What? People, Vanessa. She recovered. I'm not here to discuss strategy. You brought up court, I brought up reality. I leaned forward slightly. Did you and Caleb discuss making me look unstable? Her face closed. Careful, she said. I almost smiled. It sounded weaker from her. She stood, smoothing her coat. I was hoping we could be mature. You were hoping I'd be scared. She picked up her bag. You should be. Then she bent toward the stroller, not enough to touch Lily, just enough to make me stand. I rose so fast the chair scraped against the floor. Vanessa smiled. See, this is what I mean. I pulled the phone from my pocket and stopped the recording. Her eyes dropped to the screen. For the first time since she sat down, she looked unsure. You recorded me. We're in a public place, I said, and you asked to discuss my child. You can't use that. Maybe not, but my lawyer can hear it. Vanessa swallowed. She'll ask why Caleb's mistress is talking about mother figures, court strategy and making me look unstable. Her hand tightened around her bag strap. I didn't say strategy. You said enough. She looked toward the stroller again. This time there was no softness in her eyes. You think this makes you strong, she whispered. You're still the woman he left. No, I said. I'm the woman he underestimated. I walked out before she could answer. Outside, the afternoon air was sharp and bright. Lily woke as I pushed the stroller down the block. Her small cry rose into the cold. I stopped near a pharmacy window and lifted her into my arms. I know, I whispered. I know. My phone buzzed. Unknown sender. The message contained a photo. Caleb and Vanessa entering the Alder Hotel. Date stamped March 18. Time stamped 1:06 a.m. The night Lily had a fever. Under the photo, one line. Thought you might need this. I stood on the sidewalk holding my daughter, staring at the screen while traffic moved around me. For months, Caleb had counted on darkness. Now even strangers were handing me light. My father lived behind a black iron gate I used to hate. When I was younger, the gate felt like protection. By the time I married Caleb, it felt like judgment. Richard Hart's house sat at the end of a long gravel drive lined with old maple trees and trimmed hedges. It was not flashy. My father never liked flash. It was solid, symmetrical, built of grey stone and old money, the kind of home people described as tasteful when they really meant impossible to ignore. I parked near the front steps and turned off the engine. Lily slept in the back seat for 5 minutes. I did not move. I had faced Vanessa. I had faced Caleb. I had faced a courtroom where strangers debated my fitness as a mother. But the thought of ringing my father's doorbell made my palms sweat. Maybe because I had once thrown his love back at him and called it control. Maybe because I was afraid he would look at me and see the mistakes I had spent years defending. Maybe because part of me still heard Caleb's voice, "Your father doesn't want you back. He wants to say I told you so." I looked at Lily in the rearview mirror. Her mouth opened in sleep. A tiny frown crossed her face and vanished. I got out. The front door opened before I reached it. My father stood there in a charcoal sweater and dark trousers, older than I remembered and exactly the same. His hair had gone almost fully silver at the temples. His face, always serious, changed when he saw the baby carrier in my hand. "Evelyn," he said. I stopped at the bottom step. "Hi, Dad." For a second neither of us moved. Then Lily made a small sound and the spell broke. My father stepped aside. "Come in, it's cold." The foyer smelled like cedar polish and the lemon tea my mother used to drink. I had not expected the smell to hit me so hard. My throat closed before I could stop it. My father noticed but said nothing. He led me into the library where a fire burned low behind a screen. The shelves rose to the ceiling. My mother's old piano stood near the window, covered with a cream cloth. I used to play there. After school, while my father read financial reports in the armchair, he would pretend not to listen. But every time I finished a piece he would say, "Again but slower, don't rush the ending." I wished I had remembered that sooner. Don't rush the ending. I placed Lily's carrier on the rug and unbuckled her. She woke, stretching with a small grunt. My father stood very still. "Would you like to hold her?" I asked. His face changed, not dramatically. Richard Hart did not do dramatic, but something in him opened. "If you'll allow me." I almost cried at the carefulness of that. I lifted Lily and placed her in his arms. He held her awkwardly for half a second, then adjusted as if some old instinct had returned. Lily stared up at him unimpressed. "This is Lily Grace," I said. "Lily," he repeated, his voice roughened. "Your mother loved that name." "I know." He looked at me then. There were 100 conversations in that look. The wedding, the silence, the birthdays missed, the calls not made, the pride that had kept both of us apart long after anger cooled. "I should have come sooner," he said. I shook my head. "I should have called." "Yes," he said. "You should have." It was so like him that I laughed once, and the laugh broke into something close to a sob. He did not soften the truth, he never had, but he also did not enjoy the wound. He sat with Lily in the armchair and nodded toward the sofa. "Tell me what happened." I did, not all of it at once. At first the facts came out neatly because facts were easier. Pregnancy, missed appointments, Vanessa, hospital. The text, the money, the separation, the custody petition. My father listened without interrupting. His hand rested gently over Lily's blanket. Every so often, his jaw tightened. When I told him Caleb had brought Vanessa to court and planned to argue I had no support, my father looked up. He said that, yes, he believes that, yes. My father's face went cold. I had seen that expression only a few times in my life. Once when a contractor tried to cheat my mother after a renovation, once when a business partner lied to his face. Once when I was 17 and a boy twice my age tried to put his hand on my waist at a charity dinner. It was not anger like Caleb's. Caleb's anger filled the room and demanded everyone manage it. My father's anger made the room quieter. "I'll call Alan," he said. Alan was his attorney, the kind people hired before lawsuits became public. "No," I said. My father looked at me. "I need Nora to handle the custody case. I'm not asking you to take over." His brows drew together. "He is trying to take your child." "I know. He brought his mistress to court." "I know. He thinks you have no one." "I know, Dad." The old rhythm almost returned, him pushing, me resisting, love turning into control because neither of us knew how to let it stand still. I took a breath. "I need you behind me," I said. "Not in front of me." He leaned back slowly. The fire cracked. I continued. "Caleb spent years telling me I had no one because it helped him. I believed him because I was too proud to admit how isolated I'd become. I don't want to replace one kind of control with another." My father's eyes flicked toward Lily, then back to me. "What do you need?" The question nearly undid me. Not "what have you done," not "why didn't you listen," not "I told you." "What do you need?" "I need you to testify that I have family support," I said. That Lily and I have a safe place if needed. I need documentation of the trust Mom left if it's still available. I need proof that I'm not financially trapped, and I need you to be in court without announcing yourself beforehand. My father's expression shifted. Why? Because Caleb's entire argument depends on me being alone. And you want him to make it? Yes. He studied me for a long moment, then slowly he nodded. You're not asking me to save you, he said. No. You're asking me to stand where he can finally see me. I'm asking you to stand where Lily can one day know you stood. His eyes dropped to the baby in his arms. Lily had fallen asleep again, one fist curled against his sweater. My father swallowed. I will be there. I let out a breath I had been holding for years. Then he said, there is something else. He stood carefully, keeping Lily secure, and walked to the desk. From the top drawer, he removed a folder. It was old, cream-colored, sealed in a plastic sleeve. Your mother set this up before she died, he said. You were 21. She knew you hated discussing money, so she asked me not to force it on you. I respected that too much, perhaps. He handed me the folder. Inside were trust documents, my name, my mother's signature, assets I had never touched. I stared at the pages. I didn't know. I told you after the engagement that we should discuss your financial independence. You said Caleb didn't care about money. I closed my eyes. I remembered. Caleb had been offended by the suggestion of a prenup. He said it made him feel like an employee instead of a husband. I had repeated his words to my father as if they were noble. My father had not argued. Now I understood why his silence that day had hurt so much. It was the silence of a man watching a trap close. This doesn't mean I want to use money to crush him, I said. No, my father said. It means he cannot use money to crush you. That difference mattered. I looked down at the documents again. For months, Caleb had told me I was dependent. He had called himself the provider while draining our accounts into Vanessa's life. He had built a custody case on the idea that I had nothing but my mother, gone for 9 years, had left a door unlocked for me. I pressed my fingers against her signature. What if the judge thinks this looks like a sudden rich family rescue? I asked. Then your lawyer will show the trust existed long before Caleb filed anything. He'll say I hid it. Did you? I didn't even know how much was there. Then say that. The simplicity of it almost made me smile. Caleb lied so often that truth had begun to feel unsophisticated. My father returned Lily to my arms. She woke just enough to fuss, then settled when she heard my voice. I'm sorry, I said quietly. My father looked toward the covered piano. So am I, for not calling, for letting pride look like patience, he said. I looked at him. He continued. When you left after the wedding, I told myself you had chosen. I thought giving you space was respect. Maybe some of it was fear that you would reject me again. My chest hurt. I was embarrassed, I said. After things got bad, I know. I thought if I called, you'd tell me you were right. I was right, he said. I laughed through tears. Then he added, but being right is useless when your child is hurting. For the first time in years, I sat in my father's library and let myself be a daughter, not instead of being a mother, because I was one when I left. The sun had dropped behind the trees. My father walked me to the door. I'll coordinate with Nora, he said, quietly. Thank you. He looked at Lily, then at me. Evelyn. I paused. Don't shrink in that courtroom to make him comfortable. I thought of Caleb's careful suit, Vanessa's lipstick, the video of me crying, the way they planned to turn my loneliness into evidence against me. I won't, I said as I drove away. My phone buzzed. A message from Caleb. I hope you're thinking seriously about settlement. Court will be humiliating for you. I looked at the road ahead. For once, I hoped he was right about the humiliation, just not mine. Caleb's favorite sentence during our marriage was, be realistic. He used it whenever reality served him. Be realistic, Evelyn. I can't attend every appointment. Be realistic. My job pays for this life. Be realistic. Vanessa is just a colleague. Be realistic. You're not in a position to fight me. After I met with my father, I drove straight to Nora's office with Lily asleep in the back seat and my mother's trust documents on the passenger seat. Nora read the first page, then the second, then took off her glasses. Well, she said, that changes the financial support argument. I don't want it to look like my father is buying the case. He isn't. Stability matters in custody, so does primary caregiving, so does truth. Money alone does not decide anything. But Caleb made money central. That means we get to answer. She tapped the trust document. This proves you have access to resources independent of him, not that I've used them. That helps. You didn't suddenly manufacture stability, you had it available and didn't weaponize it until he threatened your child. I looked down at Lily sleeping in her carrier beside my chair. I should have known about it. You were busy surviving. Nora said it simply, not as comfort as fact. Then she opened another folder. Now let's talk about Caleb's version of providing. She spread bank records across the conference table. I recognized some from my own downloads, others were new, obtained through temporary financial disclosures, rows of numbers, dates, vendor names, transfers. Nora highlighted 3 columns. Your joint account paid for personal expenses tied to Vanessa Cole rent support. Through a Shell Consulting invoice, jewelry, travel, dining, a retainer for a stylist. She appears to have hired one before your first custody conference. I sat back. Vanessa had dressed for court the way people dressed for a role, because it was one. How much? I asked. Nora paused. From the joint account and marital business distributions we can trace so far approximately $187,000 over 11 months. For a moment the room went quiet except for Lily's soft breathing. $187,000. While I compared formula prices, while I delayed pelvic floor therapy because the out-of-pocket cost felt irresponsible, while Caleb told me night nurses were 4 women who wanted to outsource motherhood, my hands curled under the table. Nora noticed. Stay with the numbers. I'm here. Good. Anger is useful if we keep it organized. That became our method. We organized the anger. We matched the hotel receipt to the fever night. We matched jewelry purchases to Vanessa's social media photos. We matched Caleb's claims that he was working late to credit card charges in neighborhoods where no clients lived. We matched his missed visitation confirmations to calendar invites with Vanessa. Every lie had a date. Every betrayal had a receipt. Every attempt to make me look unstable had context. Then Nora showed me the draft of Caleb's proposed settlement. He had sent it through Martin with a note saying he wanted to avoid unnecessary conflict. The agreement offered me limited child support, joint legal custody in name, but physical custody weighted heavily toward Caleb once Lily reached 6 months. It included a morality clause for me but not for him. It restricted relocation. It allowed Caleb to designate trusted caregivers during his parenting time, clearly meaning Vanessa. There was also a confidentiality clause. I read that twice. He wants me quiet, I said. Nora nodded. More than he wants peace. If I sign this, Vanessa gets my child half the week before Lily can even sit up. Eventually more. Look at the holiday schedule. I looked. My first Mother's Day was listed as Caleb's weekend. Not a mistake, a message. I closed the folder. No, we weren't going to accept it, Nora said. I know. I needed to say it out loud. My phone rang. Caleb. Nora glanced at the screen. You don't have to answer. I want to. She pressed a button on the conference phone and nodded once. Recording rules were different depending on context, but this was in Nora's office with counsel present, and Caleb had been told all custody communication should go through attorneys. If he chose to speak anyway. Nora wanted a witness. I answered. Caleb. His voice came sharp and controlled. Did you restrict the joint account? Yes, you had no right. It's a marital account under review in active proceedings. You sound like your lawyer. Good, a beat. I was going to be fair to you, he said. You mean the settlement that gives Vanessa access to my daughter and gives me a gag order? She is part of my household. She is your affair partner. She's not going away. Neither am I. His breathing changed. There was a time that shift would have made me apologize preemptively. Not anymore. You're making yourself look hostile, he said. I'm making myself clear. You don't understand what you're risking. I do. No, you don't. Judges care about stability. I have a house, income, a family. You have postpartum episodes and a grudge. Nora's eyes lifted. I kept my voice even. Do you want to discuss Lily's medical schedule? Don't redirect. That's the only thing we should discuss directly. Fine, he snapped. Let's discuss Lily. Do you think she benefits from watching you unravel? My stomach tightened, but I heard Nora's pen move. Lily is 3 months old, I said. She benefits from feeding, sleep, medical care, and a safe caregiver. Exactly, which is why I'm doing this. Then answer one question. What formula is she currently using? Silence. It stretched long enough to become an answer. Don't play games, he said. What size diapers? Evelyn. Who is her pediatrician? I know who her doctor is. Name, he cursed under his breath. Nora wrote 3 words. Does not know. Caleb recovered with anger. You're trying to trap me. No. I'm asking basic questions about the child you're trying to take primary custody of. I'm her father. Then start acting like it. The words came out before I could soften them. I did not regret them. Caleb went quiet then. His voice lowered. You're going to be sorry you chose this route. No, I said. I was sorry when I chose the other one. I ended the call. My hand shook after, but only a little. Nora leaned back. That was useful. He sounded awful. He sounded revealing. We spent the next hour preparing a formal response. No direct calls, all communication through attorneys, emergency child-related matters by email only, visitation confirmation required in writing, no third-party exposure without agreement. When I left Nora's office, rain had started. I stood under the awning, balancing Lily's carrier and the diaper bag while opening my umbrella. Across the street, a black SUV idled by the curb. For a moment, I thought nothing of it. Then the passenger window lowered. Vanessa sat inside. Caleb was driving. She looked at me through the rain, and this time she did not smile. Caleb's face was shadowed, but I could feel his anger across the street. My phone buzzed. A message from Martin Price, MS Hart. Your refusal to cooperate will be presented to the court. I looked from the message to the SUV. Then I opened my email and forwarded Martin's message to Nora with one line. Add it to the file. The SUV pulled away. Lily slept through the rain for the first time in months. I did not feel chased. I felt documented. The hospital looked different when I returned, without a swollen belly or a car seat in my hands, brighter, somehow less enormous. I walked through the maternity wing with Lily against my chest and felt my body remember what my mind tried to organize into facts: the smell of antiseptic, the squeak of shoes on polished floors, the distant cry of a newborn behind a closed door, the soft beep of machines. This was where I had become a mother. This was where Caleb had become absent. Nora had arranged the meeting with Grace, the nurse who had helped me through labor. I found her at the nurse's station reading a chart. She looked up and recognition crossed her face before I spoke. Evelyn, she said, and this must be Lily. Lily blinked at her, unimpressed as usual. Grace smiled. She has your eyes. Thank you for meeting with me. Grace's expression softened. I wondered if I'd hear from you. That surprised me. You did. She guided me to a small consultation room near the end of the hall. It had 2 chairs, a round table, and a box of tissues that made me instantly suspicious of every conversation that happened there. Grace sat across from me. I've worked maternity for 18 years, she said. You learn what support looks like. You also learn what absence looks like when someone tries to dress it up. My throat tightened. Nora said you might be willing to provide a statement. I already started one. She opened a folder. Inside were notes: admission time, support person absent, patient attempted contact with spouse multiple times, spouse arrived after delivery, patient appeared physically exhausted but attentive to infant, no concerns observed regarding bonding or ability to follow medical guidance. I read the words twice. No concerns observed. 3 ordinary words. After months of Caleb turning my exhaustion into danger, those words felt like someone opening a window. Grace watched my face. He came in with flowers and a story. He said work. He said traffic to me. I looked up. He told me he'd been stuck in traffic. Grace said, at almost midnight. After you delivered in the early evening. I closed my eyes, not because the lie surprised me, because there were so many lies that I could no longer grieve each one properly. Grace continued. He also asked whether postpartum anxiety would affect custody. My eyes opened. When, the next morning, you were sleeping, the baby was in the bassinet, he came to the desk and asked how medical records described postpartum emotional episodes. A cold line ran through me. Lily was less than a day old, and Caleb had already been thinking legally, not about diapers, not about my stitches, not about how to hold his daughter. Custody. Grace's mouth tightened. I told him emotional adjustment after childbirth is common and does not equal incapacity. He seemed disappointed. I let out a breath. Would you say that in a statement? Yes, maybe in court, if needed. I looked down at Lily. She was awake now, watching the overhead light as if it had secrets. Thank you, I said. Grace leaned forward. I don't know your whole story, but I know this: a mother crying after childbirth is not evidence that she is unfit. Sometimes it is evidence that everyone around her failed. I had to look away. There are sentences that find the bruise exactly. After the hospital I went to see Mrs. Allen. She lived one floor below the apartment Caleb and I had shared, in a unit filled with plants, framed grandchildren photos, and the smell of cinnamon. She was 72, widowed, sharp as broken glass, and had once told Caleb he parked like a man raised without consequences. I had always liked her. She opened the door before I knocked twice. "Well," she said, looking at Lily, "there's the little queen." Lily sneezed. Mrs. Allen clutched her chest. "Perfect." She made tea while I explained. I did not need to say much. Mrs. Allen had seen more than I realized. I knew something was wrong when that red-haired girl started coming around. She said, "Vanessa isn't red-haired. She was that month." Despite everything, I laughed. Mrs. Allen pointed a spoon at me. "Don't laugh. I know a mistress makeover when I see one." I nearly choked on tea. Then she opened her laptop. "I have my own doorbell camera," she said. "My son installed it because he thinks I'm helpless. I use it to monitor package thieves and idiots." She clicked through folders. Dates appeared on the screen. "There," she said. Video hallway. Vanessa stepping out of the elevator at 10:52 p.m. wearing a black coat. Caleb opening our apartment door from inside. Another video. Vanessa leaving at 6:14 a.m. sunglasses on though the hallway had no sunlight. Another. Caleb kissing her outside the elevator while I was visibly pregnant in the framed photo still hanging beside our door. My hands went cold. Mrs. Allen saw my face and closed the laptop halfway. "I'm sorry, honey." "Don't be," I said. "I need it. You can have copies. I already put them on a flash drive." "You did?" She gave me a look. "Men like him always think older women are furniture. We see everything." I covered my mouth with one hand, not to cry, to hold in whatever sound might come out. Mrs. Allen reached across the table and squeezed my wrist. "You were always kind," she said. "Too thin after the baby, always carrying laundry. Always with that little one." He came and went like a guest in his own life. That became her statement. By evening, Nora had Grace's medical statement, Mrs. Allen's videos, and the name of the temporary postpartum helper I had hired for 6 hours over 2 weeks. Her name was Jade. I called her after dinner while Lily kicked on a playmat beside me. Jade remembered Caleb too. "He asked me where the formula was," she said. "I told him it was in the labeled bin under the prep station. And he opened the pantry." "Of course he did. Would you be willing to tell my lawyer that?" "I can tell her more. He didn't know how to hold Lily's head properly. You corrected him gently and he got annoyed." I remembered that Caleb had said, "Don't micromanage me," then handed Lily back after less than 3 minutes. Jade added, "He also asked whether you had been crying a lot." Not like he was worried, more like he was collecting something. Collecting something, that was exactly right. While I collected proof of his absence, he had collected fragments of my pain. The difference was purpose. Mine protected Lily. His protected himself. That night, after Lily fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table and organized the witness list: Grace, medical support, and birth timeline, Mrs. Allen, surveillance footage and pattern of affair, Jade, caregiving observations, pediatrician records, appointments attended by mother, bank records, marital funds to Vanessa, text records, father absent, mother requesting help, Vanessa recording intent to replace and influence custody, Diane recording pending. I stared at the last line. Diane, Caleb's mother, had called twice that afternoon. I had ignored both. At 9:18 p.m. she left a voicemail. "Evelyn, this has gone far enough. We need to speak before you embarrass yourself in court. Lily is a Whitman. Don't make us fight you harder than necessary." I saved the voicemail, then I sent Diane a text. "We can meet tomorrow at noon, public place only." Her reply came within seconds. "Good, dress appropriately." I stared at the message, then I laughed, not loudly, not happily, but with a kind of wonder. They all still thought humiliation was leverage. They had no idea I had started using it as evidence. Diane Whitman chose the restaurant. Of course she did. It was a private dining room inside a hotel where the chairs were upholstered in pale blue velvet and the menu did not include prices. Caleb used to bring clients there when he wanted them to know he was successful before he proved he was competent. I arrived exactly at noon wearing black trousers, a grey sweater, and no jewelry except my mother's thin gold band on a chain under my collar. Lily stayed with my father's housekeeper, Elise, for 2 hours. It was the first time I had left her with anyone from my side of the family. And I had cried in the car for 3 minutes before walking into the hotel, not because I distrusted Elise, because freedom, when you are used to being trapped, can feel like danger at first. Diane sat at the center of the table as if she had convened a board meeting. She wore pearls, a cream blouse, and the expression of a woman who believed manners were something other people owed her. "Evelyn," she said, "you're late." I looked at my phone. "It's noon." "Exactly." I sat across from her. A server entered with sparkling water. Diane waited until he left before speaking. "I won't waste time. That would be new." Her eyes sharpened. "This attitude is precisely the problem." I placed my phone face down on the table, recording. Diane noticed. "Are you recording me?" "Yes, at least you admit it." I learned from Caleb. Color rose under her makeup, but she recovered. "Fine, record. Perhaps it will help you hear yourself later." I said nothing. Diane opened a leather folder. "I've had our attorney review the situation. The family's. There is no family case," I said. "There is Caleb's custody petition. Lily is a Whitman. She is my daughter. She is also Caleb's daughter, and frankly, Evelyn, you have never understood what that means." "What does it mean?" "It means she belongs to a legacy." There it was, not love, legacy. I let my gaze move around the room, the crystal glasses, the white tablecloth, the closed door. "Is that why Caleb suddenly wants primary custody?" I asked. "Legacy." Diane's lips pressed together. "Caleb has always wanted what is best for his child. He missed her birth. He was working. He was with Vanessa." Diane flinched, but only slightly. "I am not here to discuss that woman. That woman was in court yesterday. I advised against it." "That was interesting. Why?" Diane looked annoyed with herself for giving me the opening. "Because appearances matter. Caleb is emotional right now. Caleb, he is under attack." I almost admired how far she could bend reality without hearing it crack. "Diane, he filed to take a 3-month-old baby from her mother after abandoning us during pregnancy and postpartum. He filed because you are unstable." "Based on what?" "Videos, messages, your behavior." "My behavior when your son left me alone with a newborn." Her face hardened. "Motherhood is difficult. That does not make Caleb a villain." "No, cheating on his pregnant wife helped." She inhaled sharply. "You are vulgar." "I'm accurate." Diane picked up her water glass, then set it down without drinking. "Listen to me carefully," she said. "You are angry now, I understand. But anger does not pay legal fees. Anger does not provide a home. Anger does not give Lily the kind of future the Whitman name can provide." "The Whitman name?" "Yes, the same name Caleb was using when he paid Vanessa's rent from marital funds." Diane's expression flickered. Good, she had not known the full amount. "Don't make accusations you can't support," she said. "I can support them." A pause. Diane looked toward the closed door as if wishing a server would interrupt. None came. "What do you want?" she asked. "Primary custody, fair support, full financial disclosure, no unsupervised exposure to Vanessa while the case is active, communication through counsel." Diane gave a short laugh. "You've become ambitious. I've become awake. You think because you have some lawyer whispering in your ear, you can dictate terms to this family. This family is not the court." "No," she said. "But the court will see reason, meaning Caleb's money, meaning stability." I leaned back. "You keep using that word. Because you lack it." "Do I?" Diane smiled then, and it was colder than Vanessa's. "Evelyn, let's not pretend. Your father washed his hands of you years ago. You left your job. You live in a temporary apartment with an infant. Caleb has a home, income, family backing, and a partner willing to help raise Lily." "A mistress, a partner," Diane repeated. "One who understands the life Lily was born into." I let the silence stretch. Diane mistook it for injury. She softened her voice, which somehow made it worse. "You can still be her mother, no one is erasing you, but you must think of what is best for the child. If Lily lives primarily with Caleb, she will have access to better schools, better circles, better opportunities. She is 3 months old. Time moves quickly. And Mother's Day." Her brows drew together. "In Caleb's settlement," I said, "he takes my first Mother's Day." Diane looked away. She knew. "You approved that." I reviewed several drafts. "Why?" "Because you need to learn that motherhood is not ownership." My body went very still. Diane continued. "Sometimes loving a child means knowing when others can provide more." There it was, the cleanest version of their cruelty. They wanted me alive enough to be grateful for scraps and quiet enough to be erased. I stood. "We're done." Diane's eyes flashed. Sit down. No, you will not walk away from me. I already did. I picked up my phone and stopped the recording where she could see it. She stared at the screen. You think that frightens me? I think it reveals you. She rose too, gripping the edge of the table. If you drag this family through court, do not expect mercy. Diane, I said, I gave birth without mercy. I recovered without mercy. I begged your son for help without mercy. I'm not looking for it anymore. Her face changed then. For the first time she looked uncertain, not sorry, just uncertain. I left the private room before she could rebuild herself. In the lobby my phone buzzed. Nora. Did she say anything useful? I sent back the audio file with one line. She said Lily belongs to a legacy. Nora replied almost immediately, excellent, terrible, but excellent. Outside the sky was white with winter light. I stood under the hotel awning and breathed. Then my phone buzzed again. My father. I will be in court tomorrow. A second message followed. Not in front of you, behind you as requested. I looked at those words until they blurred. Behind you. For years I thought support meant losing control. Now I understood the difference. Control stands over you, support stands behind you and lets you remain visible. When I returned to my father's house, Lily was asleep in Elise's arms. My father stood nearby pretending to read a newspaper upside down. I raised an eyebrow. He folded it. She cried for 8 minutes, he said. Then she judged us silently. That sounds like her. Elise laughed and handed Lily to me. The moment my daughter's weight settled into my arms, something inside me steadied. Tomorrow Caleb would tell a judge I was alone. He would say it confidently, he would believe it, and then for once everyone in that courtroom would watch his certainty break. The mediation room had no windows. That felt intentional. It was a beige box with a conference table, 6 chairs, a water pitcher and a clock that ticked too loudly. Rooms like that were designed to make people tired enough to agree. Caleb arrived with Martin Price. Vanessa arrived with Caleb. That was the first provocation. Nora looked at her, then at Martin. Ms. Cole is not a party. Martin smiled. She is here as emotional support. For whom? Nora asked. The man who brought his affair partner to a custody mediation. Vanessa's chin lifted. I care about Lily. I had promised myself I would not respond to her unless necessary. This was necessary. You have never changed her diaper. Her mouth opened. Caleb stepped in. This is exactly why she's here. You are hostile toward anyone in my life. No, I said. I'm protective of anyone in Lily's. The mediator, a tired man named Paulson, cleared his throat. Let's focus on the child. I almost told him that was what I had been doing since the day she was born. Instead, I opened my folder. Martin distributed their revised proposal. Revised meant longer, not fairer. The new agreement offered shared legal custody but gave Caleb 4 overnights per week beginning when Lily turned 6 months old. It allowed romantic partners of either parent to assist with childcare after introduction. It required both parties to avoid disparaging each other but included no consequences for Caleb's prior conduct. It restricted my ability to move more than 15 miles away. It included confidentiality again and one new clause: I had to submit to a psychological evaluation selected from a list provided by Caleb's counsel. Nora read that clause, looked up and laughed once, not loudly. Enough. Martin's smile cooled. Is something amusing? You cannot request a hand-picked psychological evaluation based on a secretly recorded postpartum video and call it child-centered. It is reasonable given Ms. Hart's documented emotional episodes. Nora tapped the folder. You keep saying documented like context is not coming. Caleb leaned forward. Evelyn, this doesn't have to be war. I looked at him. He seemed tired, not in the way new parents are tired, in the way men become tired when consequences take longer than they expected to disappear. You filed for primary custody, I said. You started the war. I filed because you refused to be reasonable. You filed because I stopped being useful. His eyes hardened. Vanessa placed a hand on his arm. Caleb, don't. It was staged softness. She wanted the mediator to see her calming him. I wondered if she knew how transparent she had become. Paulson folded his hands. Ms. Hart, what would you consider reasonable? Nora began to answer, but I touched her sleeve. She nodded. I spoke for myself. Lily remains primarily with me. Caleb has scheduled visitation that increases only after consistent attendance and proof that he can manage her care directly. No unsupervised caregiving by Ms. Cole while proceedings are active. full financial disclosure, child support according to guidelines, all communication in writing, no confidentiality clause regarding facts relevant to custody or finances. Martin shook his head. That is punitive. No, I said, it is based on behavior. Caleb laughed bitterly. You mean because I moved on? I stared at him. Moved on? What a pretty phrase for leaving your postpartum wife with a feverish infant while you checked into a hotel. You didn't move on, I said. You overlapped. Paulson's pen stopped moving. Vanessa's face flushed. Caleb leaned back. You want to humiliate me? No, I want the court to see. You clearly. If that humiliates you, ask yourself why. For a moment he looked like he might shout, then Martin slid another paper across the table. There is a financial offer attached, he said, a generous one. Nora reached for it but Caleb pushed it toward me. I read the number. It was not small. 6 months earlier it would have terrified me with its possibility: rent, formula, medical bills, a cushion against the fear Caleb had spent years teaching me to carry. Now it looked exactly like what it was. Payment for silence. You'll have breathing room, Caleb said, his voice softened. That was always when he became most dangerous. You can rest, get help, rebuild. Lily will have both of us. Both of us? I asked. His eyes flicked to Vanessa. There it was again, the plural. I put the paper down. No. Caleb's mouth tightened. Don't be stupid. Nora's head lifted. The mediator said, Mr. Whitman. Caleb ignored him. This is more money than you'll get fighting. My child is not a settlement discount. You think your father is coming back into your life and suddenly you're untouchable. The room went still. Nora did not move. I looked at Caleb carefully. How do you know I spoke to my father? His expression shifted. Too late. Vanessa looked at him. Martin closed his eyes briefly. I almost smiled. There were only a few possibilities. Caleb had followed me, had someone follow me, checked something he should not have checked, or Vanessa had seen me through some gossip line and passed it along. All of them were useful. Nora's voice was very calm. Mr. Whitman, have you been monitoring my client's movements? No, he snapped. Then how did you know she saw her father? I assumed. No, you didn't, I said. You said it like a fact. Vanessa spoke quickly. Everyone knows your father has money. It's obvious you'd run to him. I turned to her. I thought you said he had washed his hands of me. She shut her mouth. The room tilted, not physically, strategically. For the first time Martin looked truly irritated with his own side. Paulson cleared his throat. Perhaps we should take a break. No need, I said. I picked up Caleb's pen. For 1 second his eyes brightened. He thought I was going to sign. Instead I wrote one word across the top page: rejected. Then I dated it. I slid the agreement back. Caleb's face went red. You'll regret this tomorrow, he said. Tomorrow, I said. You will answer questions under oath. Vanessa stood abruptly. This is pointless. Nora looked at her. For you, yes. Martin gathered his papers. We'll see you in court. Caleb remained seated a moment longer. His voice dropped so low only I could hear. When the judge sees that video again, when she sees how unstable you looked, don't say I didn't try to spare you. I thought of Grace's statement, Mrs. Allen's footage, Jade's testimony, Diane's recording, Vanessa's coffee shop confession, the bank records, my father in the back row, my mother's trust. I looked Caleb directly in the eye. You never tried to spare me, I said. You tried to scare me. He stared at me as if he was finally realizing those were not the same thing. I left with Nora in the hallway. My knees weakened, not from fear, from aftermath. Nora touched my elbow. You held. I wanted to throw the water pitcher at him. Wanting is free, not doing it is strategy. I laughed because if I didn't, I would cry. Outside, my father's driver waited at the curb. My father had insisted after learning Caleb might be watching me. I had resisted for 10 minutes, then accepted because pride was not safety, and Lily needed me safe. As I got into the car, a message arrived from Caleb. Last chance, settled tonight. I can still protect you from what happens next. I took a screenshot, then I blocked his number for emergencies. He could email Nora for manipulation. He could talk to himself that night. I slept at my father's house in my old bedroom with Lily's bassinet beside me. The walls were no longer lavender, the posters were gone, the girl I had been was gone too, but near the window on the shelf sat a small wooden music box my mother had given me when I was 12. I wound it once. The melody trembled through the room. Lily slept. I lay awake, not because I was afraid of court, because tomorrow Caleb would walk into a room certain that I had come alone, And I wanted to remember every second of his face when he learned the truth. Court felt different the second day. Not easier, cleaner. The first day, Caleb had tried to cover the room in fog, emotional instability, financial dependence, jealousy, hostility, a mother overwhelmed, a father concerned. The second day, we brought weather reports, facts, times, receipts, witnesses. I arrived early with Lily in a navy dress my mother had once bought for me during a summer in Maine. I wore my hair pulled back, low heels and a grey coat. Nora met me inside security. She carried 2 exhibit binders and a calm expression that made me stand straighter. Ready? She asked. No. Good. Ready. People get careless. I laughed softly. Then I saw Caleb. He stood near the courtroom doors with Martin. Vanessa sat on a bench nearby, scrolling through her phone with one hand and holding a paper coffee cup in the other. She wore pale blue today, softer than cream, more maternal maybe. Someone had advised her. Caleb watched me approach. His eyes moved behind me, no father, no visible support, his mouth relaxed slightly. That was the moment I knew he still believed. My father had entered through the side hallway 15 minutes earlier with Nora's associate. He sat in the second row behind where I would be seated, partly blocked by a pillar until the courtroom filled. He did not approach me, he did not announce himself, he did exactly what I had asked. Behind me, Vanessa looked up from her phone. Brave, she said. I stopped. What is coming back? Were you hoping I wouldn't? She smiled. I was hoping you'd think of Lily. I have been. Caleb stepped toward me. Evelyn, we can still resolve this. Through counsel. His jaw tightened. Don't hide behind your lawyer. I glanced at Vanessa. Interesting advice from a man hiding behind his mistress. Nora made a small sound that might have been a cough. Caleb's face darkened. You're going to push until there's nothing left to save. There is nothing left to save between us. For the first time I said it without pain. The clerk opened the doors. We entered. The courtroom filled slowly. A few other attorneys sat in the back waiting for later matters. Diane arrived and sat 2 rows behind Caleb, stiff and pale. She avoided looking at me. I wondered if she knew her recording was in our binder. Vanessa sat behind Caleb again, but not as confidently. My father sat behind me. I could feel him there without turning. It was strange how support could be quiet and still change the weight of a room. Judge Marin entered at 9:00. We stood. Lily was with Elise in a waiting room nearby. We had decided it was better not to keep her in court through witness testimony. Caleb had objected when he found out. Convenient, he muttered. Nora replied, age appropriate. The judge began by summarizing where we had left off. Mr. Whitman had presented evidence of concern regarding Ms. Hart's emotional stability. Ms. Hart's counsel had indicated context and responsive evidence would follow. Judge Marin looked at Nora. Ms. Bennett. Nora stood. Thank you, Your Honor. We will show that Mr. Whitman's petition relies on selective, misleading evidence. We will establish that Ms. Hart has been Lily's primary caregiver since birth, that Mr. Whitman has repeatedly failed to appear for scheduled care and medical responsibilities, that he used marital funds to support Ms. Cole during the marriage, and that the claim of Ms. Hart's isolation is false. Caleb's eyes narrowed. Nora continued. We will also show that the proposed caregiving environment includes a romantic partner who participated in discussions about presenting Ms. Hart as unstable. Vanessa went very still. Martin stood. Your Honor, counsel is making inflammatory claims. Opening summary. Judge Marin said. You may respond in turn. Nora sat. Martin rose, already irritated. Your Honor, this case is simple. My client is a father seeking meaningful involvement. Ms. Hart has chosen to punish him for the end of a marriage. The financial allegations are irrelevant to the child's immediate welfare, and any suggestion that Ms. Cole has acted improperly is a distraction. Nora looked down at her notes. I knew that look. Let him keep talking. Martin did. He leaned into the theme of support. Ms. Hart has no meaningful family structure available. She resides temporarily. She has not returned to full employment. Mr. Whitman, by contrast, can provide continuity, resources, and a broad family network. Judge Marin made a note. Caleb looked at me. There was satisfaction in his eyes. He had waited for that line. No meaningful family structure. Nora stood for her first witness. Your Honor, Ms. Hart calls Richard Hart, The room changed before my father moved. Diane turned first, then Caleb. He looked past me into the second row, and I saw the moment recognition struck him. Not just recognition of a man, recognition of a mistake. My father stood, he buttoned his jacket slowly, not for drama, but because he did everything deliberately. He stepped into the aisle and walked forward. The courtroom did not gasp. Real life rarely gives you clean sound effects, but it went quiet in a way that felt louder. Vanessa whispered, "Oh my God." Caleb's face drained. Martin leaned toward him. "You didn't say her father was Richard Hart." Caleb did not answer. I kept my eyes forward, but inside, something old and bruised unfolded, not because my father had power, because Caleb had counted on my abandonment so confidently that the sight of someone standing for me looked like a scandal to him. My father took the oath. Nora approached the lectern. "Please state your name." "Richard Thomas Hart." "Mr. Hart, what is your relationship to Ms. Evelyn Hart?" "She is my daughter." The word landed softly. Daughter. For years I had let Caleb make me feel like an ex-daughter, a difficult daughter, a daughter too proud to return. My father said it like no time had passed. Nora continued, "Are you aware of these custody proceedings?" "Yes." "When did Ms. Hart contact you regarding them?" My father glanced at me briefly. "Recently, but not because support was unavailable before, because she had been led to believe she should not ask for it." Martin stood. Objection. Speculation. Sustained. Judge Marin said, "Mr. Hart, please speak to facts." My father nodded. "Factually, my home is available to my daughter and granddaughter. Financial support is available. Childcare support is available. Transportation, medical assistance, and a stable residence are available." Nora handed him a document. "Do you recognize this?" "Yes, it is a trust established by my late wife for Evelyn." "When was it created?" 8 years ago, before Ms. Hart married Mr. Whitman." "Yes." "Does Ms. Hart have access to resources through that trust?" "Yes." Caleb looked like he had swallowed glass. Nora let the judge review the document. "Mr. Hart," she said, "have you ever refused to support your daughter or granddaughter?" "No." "Did Ms. Hart ask you to take control of this litigation?" "No." "What did she ask?" My father looked at me again. "She asked me to stand behind her, not in front of her." The words moved through me like a hand at my back. Nora nodded. "Why is that important?" "Because my daughter is not helpless," he said. "She is the mother who has been caring for Lily. My role is to make clear that she does not lack support." Martin rose for cross-examination. He looked less pleased now. "Mr. Hart, isn't it true that you and your daughter were estranged for several years?" "Yes." "So your testimony about support is recent. My presence in court is recent. My willingness to support her is not." "You did not attend the birth." "I was not told she was in labor." Caleb looked down. Martin pressed. "You did not regularly visit the child after birth." "I did not know the conditions under which my daughter was living." "I know now." "Convenient timing." My father looked at him. "I would call it overdue timing." A few people in the back shifted. Judge Marin's mouth did not move, but her eyes sharpened. Martin tried another angle. "Isn't it true, Mr. Hart, that your wealth gives Ms. Hart an artificial advantage in these proceedings?" "My wealth does not wake up at 3:00 a.m. to feed Lily. Evelyn does." The courtroom went very still. My throat tightened so fast I had to look down. My father continued, "My wealth does not know the child's formula, doctor, vaccine schedule, sleep patterns, or medical history. Evelyn does. My resources can support the environment, but they do not replace the parent." Nora did not smile, but I felt her satisfaction from 3 feet away. Martin had no more questions. When my father stepped down, he did not touch my shoulder. He did not need to. He returned to his seat behind me. Caleb stared at the table. Vanessa stared at Caleb. Diane stared at me like she was seeing not a discarded daughter-in-law, but a door she had failed to notice was locked from my side. Judge Marin turned a page. "Ms. Bennett, your next witness." Nora stood. "The petitioner calls Grace Holloway." Caleb's head snapped up. He did not know that name, but he would. Grace Holloway walked to the witness stand in navy scrubs and practical shoes, carrying herself with the calm authority of a woman who had seen men faint during childbirth and then claim credit for the baby's eyes. She took the oath, sat down, and looked at Nora without glancing at Caleb. "Ms. Holloway," Nora said, "what is your profession?" "I'm a registered nurse in maternity and postpartum care." Were you working when Ms. Hart delivered Lily Grace? Yes. Did you interact with Ms. Hart during labor and after delivery? I did. Nora asked about the timeline first. Grace gave it cleanly. Admission at 4:12 a.m. Patient alone. Support person listed as spouse. Patient attempted calls. Labor progressed. Delivery in the evening. Spouse arrived approximately 3 hours after birth. Caleb shifted in his seat. Martin stared at his notes. Did you observe Ms. Hart interacting with her newborn? Nora asked. Yes. How would you describe that interaction? Exhausted, appropriate, attentive, bonded. The words seemed to settle over the courtroom like clean sheets. Nora handed Grace a copy of Caleb's video still. Did Mr. Whitman later ask you about postpartum anxiety in relation to custody? Grace looked at the document, then at the judge. Yes. Caleb leaned toward Martin, whispering sharply. Grace continued. He asked whether emotional distress after birth could appear in medical records and whether it would affect custody. When did this occur? The morning after delivery. Judge Marin looked up. Nora asked. Did you have concerns that Ms. Hart was a danger to her child? No. Did you document any such concerns? No. Based on your professional experience, is crying from exhaustion in the postpartum period by itself evidence that a mother is unfit? No, absolutely not. The word absolutely carried weight. Martin cross-examined and tried to suggest Grace was sympathetic to all mothers. Grace looked at him with patience. I am sympathetic to safe caregiving, she said. In this case I observed Ms. Hart providing it. That ended him. Next came Jade, the postpartum helper. She was younger than I remembered, with curly hair pulled into a bun and a nervous grip on her purse. But once she began speaking, her voice steadied. She testified that I had hired her for short blocks because I was physically exhausted but organized. She described labeled formula bins, feeding logs, pediatric instructions taped inside a cabinet, emergency numbers posted near the fridge. Then Nora asked about Caleb. Did you observe Mr. Whitman caring for Lily? Briefly, Jade said. Briefly. He usually handed her back quickly. Caleb flushed. Did he appear familiar with Lily's daily care? Jade hesitated. Nora said gently. Just answer truthfully. No. What do you mean? He didn't know where the formula was. He didn't know how to prepare the bottle. He didn't know which diapers she used. He seemed irritated when Ms. Hart corrected the way he supported the baby's head. Martin tried to object. Overruled. Jade added. He asked whether Ms. Hart cried often. It felt like he was gathering examples, not asking how to help. Caleb stared at the table. Vanessa crossed her arms. The next witness was Mrs. Allen. She wore a purple cardigan and brought her own reading glasses on a chain. When Nora asked her to state her relationship to the parties, Mrs. Allen said, I lived beneath them, which means I heard more than I wanted and saw more than Mr. Whitman assumed. Someone in the back coughed to cover a laugh. Judge Marin looked down at her notes. But I saw the corner of her mouth tighten. Mrs. Allen identified the doorbell footage. Video 1. Vanessa entering our apartment late at night while I was visibly pregnant and away at a prenatal class, confirmed by my calendar and medical records. Video 2. Vanessa leaving at dawn. Video 3. Caleb and Vanessa kissing outside the elevator. Video 4. Me returning from a pediatric appointment alone, carrying Lily, diaper bag, folded stroller, and groceries while Caleb walked past 20 minutes later without helping because he was on the phone. I had not known that one existed. Watching it hurt more than the kiss. The kiss proved betrayal. The groceries proved contempt. In the footage, I struggled to keep the stroller from tipping as Lily cried. Caleb appeared from the elevator, saw me, said something into his phone and walked into the apartment ahead of me. Mrs. Allen's voice came from the stand. That was normal, she said. She carried everything. He carried himself. I looked down at my hands. Nora paused long enough for the image to remain on the screen. Then came the records, bank transfers, hotel receipts, jewelry purchases, the stylist payment, Vanessa's rent disguised as consulting. Martin objected to relevance. Nora argued that Caleb had placed financial stability and household environment at issue while using marital assets to maintain an affair partner who was now presented as caregiving support. Judge Marin allowed the evidence for limited purposes. Limited was enough. Every number took another brick out of Caleb's wall. Then Nora played part of Vanessa's coffee shop recording, not all, just enough. Caleb can give Lily more, a mother figure who isn't drowning, someone who doesn't cry on the floor while holding an infant. Vanessa went pale. Martin stood. Your Honor, Ms. Cole was not aware she was being recorded. Nora responded. The recording occurred in a public coffee shop. More importantly, Ms. Cole is present today as Mr. Whitman's proposed household support and has made statements directly relevant to her role in the child's life. Judge Marin allowed limited use and warned both sides she would weigh it accordingly. Then came Diane's recording. Lily is a Whitman. She belongs to a legacy. Sometimes loving a child means knowing when others can provide more. Diane closed her eyes. Caleb looked back at his mother with disbelief, as if betrayal had finally offended him now that it pointed his way. But the worst moment for him came from his own messages. Nora displayed screenshots between Caleb and Vanessa. Vanessa, the crying video helps. She looks unstable. Caleb, it's not enough alone. Vanessa, then make her emotional in writing. Stop answering and let her spiral. Caleb, careful. Vanessa, I am. You should be too if you want Lily in your house. The room went silent, not courtroom quiet, human quiet, the kind that follows the removal of a mask. Caleb stood halfway. That's out of context. Judge Marin's voice cut through the room. Sit down, Mr. Whitman. He sat. Vanessa stared at the screen as if she could will the messages to rearrange themselves. Nora approached the witness stand. Ms. Cole, she said. Vanessa had been called reluctantly after the messages came in. She took the oath with trembling fingers. Nora did not attack at first. She asked soft questions. How long had Vanessa known Caleb? When did their relationship become romantic? Had she been in his home before his separation from me? Did she consider herself part of Lily's future household? Vanessa tried to dance. Nora let her. Then she showed the messages. Did you send this? Vanessa swallowed. It was a private conversation. That is not an answer. Yes. Did you suggest Mr. Whitman stop answering Ms. Hart so she would appear emotional in writing? I didn't mean it that way. How did you mean let her spiral? Vanessa looked at Caleb. He did not look back. That was the moment she understood. Men like Caleb do not share lifeboats. When the ship starts sinking, they point. I was frustrated, Vanessa said, because Ms. Hart was interfering with your relationship, because she was using the baby. Nora's voice sharpened. Using the baby how? Vanessa looked trapped. To keep Caleb attached. By asking him to attend medical appointments. No, by asking him to answer calls when Lily had a fever. That's not what I meant. By asking him not to bring his affair partner to visitation. Vanessa's mouth opened then closed. Nora waited. The waiting did more damage than shouting ever could. Finally Vanessa said, I loved him. The courtroom seemed to exhale. There it was, not Lily's welfare, not stability, not concern. I loved him. Nora lowered her voice. And you wanted Ms. Hart out of the way? No. You wanted her role? No. You referred to yourself as a better mother figure. I was angry. You discussed making Ms. Hart look unstable. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. Caleb said she was unstable first. Every head turned toward him. Caleb's face went rigid. Vanessa realized what she had done. Nora had no further questions. Caleb was recalled. He walked to the stand like a man approaching a cliff he had insisted was a stage. Nora asked only a few questions. Did you record Ms. Hart crying while holding Lily? Yes. Did you take the child from her at that moment? I don't remember. Did you offer help? I was trying to show her she needed help. Did you send the video to Ms. Cole? Caleb's jaw flexed. Yes. Did you discuss using it in custody proceedings? My attorney advised me later. That was not my question. Yes. Did you intentionally ignore Ms. Hart's calls or texts to generate written evidence of distress? No. Nora displayed the message again. Vanessa, stop answering and let her spiral. Caleb, careful. You replied careful. Nora said, not no. Caleb had no answer. Nora stepped closer. Mr. Whitman, what formula does Lily currently use? Martin stood, asked, and answered outside court is not evidence. Judge Marin looked at Caleb. I'll allow it. Answer. Caleb swallowed. I don't know the brand. What size diapers? I'm not sure. Who is her pediatrician? He remembered the first name, not the last. Nora asked. When is her next vaccine appointment? No answer. She closed her binder. No further questions. The judge took a recess before issuing temporary orders. I sat at the table unable to move. Nora touched my hand once. You did well. I barely spoke. You didn't need to. Across the aisle, Caleb argued with Martin in harsh whispers. Vanessa sat alone behind him crying now, but no one comforted her. Diane stared at the floor. My father sat behind me silent. I turned slightly. He met my eyes. For a moment I was not in court. I was 12 years old at the piano again, rushing through the final notes, and my father's voice was steady behind me again, but slower. Don't rush the ending. So I turned back around and waited for the judge. Judge Marin returned after 43 minutes. I counted every one, not because I wanted to, because waiting was still something my body did too well. Nora sat beside me, hands folded. Caleb sat across the aisle with his face set in a hard mask. Vanessa had moved one seat farther away from him. Diane held her purse in her lap with both hands. My father was still behind me. That mattered more than I could explain. The judge began carefully. Family court language is strange. It wraps broken things in neutral phrases. Parenting time, temporary orders, best interests, household environment, caregiving continuity. But beneath the careful language, the meaning was clear. Lily would remain primarily with me. Caleb would receive limited, scheduled visitation, supervised at first by a neutral professional or agreed third party, with increases dependent on consistent attendance and demonstrated caregiving competence. Vanessa would not provide childcare or be present during visitation until further order. All communication would go through a court-approved parenting app. Caleb would provide temporary child support according to income guidelines and submit to a full financial disclosure review because of concerns regarding marital fund misuse. The court declined to order a psychological evaluation of me based on the evidence presented. I heard the words, I understood them. Still, my body did not believe them right away. Survival had trained me to wait for the reversal, the hidden cost, the sudden punishment. But there was only Judge Marin's voice, Nora's quiet breath beside me, and the scrape of Caleb's chair as he shifted like a man discovering the ground was not where he had left it. Judge Marin looked at both of us. This court is not here to punish infidelity, she said. But when conduct during and after a marriage affects the welfare of a child, the court will consider it. Mr. Whitman, the evidence today raises serious concerns about your judgment, your understanding of the child's needs, and the role Ms. Cole has attempted to assume. Caleb's mouth tightened. The judge continued, Ms. Hart, the court recognizes the burden you have carried as the child's primary caregiver. The court also recognizes credible evidence of a support system available to you, a support system, not rescue, not pity, support. I blinked hard. Judge Marin closed the folder. Temporary orders are entered as stated. We will set a review hearing in 90 days. The gavel sound was small, the impact was not. I stood because Nora stood. For a few seconds, my legs felt disconnected from the rest of me. Then Nora leaned close and said, breathe. I did. Across the aisle, Caleb turned toward me. His face had changed. The anger was still there, but something else had entered. Fear, not fear for Lily, fear of losing control. Evelyn, he said. Nora stepped slightly between us. Any communication through counsel. He ignored her. Please. That word, please, how strange to hear it from him after months of careful commands. I looked at him. What? His eyes flicked toward the back row, where my father had risen, then to Vanessa, who was wiping her face with a tissue and staring at the floor. Caleb lowered his voice. Can we talk outside, just us? No, this got out of hand. No, it finally got into the open. His face twisted. You think you won? I looked toward the hallway where Elise waited with Lily. Yes, I said. But not the thing you think. He stepped closer. Nora's hand lifted, warning. Caleb stopped. I made mistakes, he said. I waited. I was overwhelmed. I almost laughed. Overwhelmed. The word he had used against me now wanted shelter in his own mouth. You were overwhelmed by a baby you barely held. I asked. His eyes flashed. By the marriage, by pressure, by your constant suspicion. There it is. What? The mistake in passive clothing. He stared at me. I spoke slowly. You did not get overwhelmed into a hotel room. You did not get pressured into paying Vanessa's rent. You did not accidentally record me crying instead of helping. You did not stumble into a custody petition. You chose every step. His face reddened. Vanessa appeared behind him. Caleb, he turned on her. Don't. She recoiled. For 1 second I saw their future, not the polished house, not the nursery staged for court, not the soft blue dress. This blame moving around the room, looking for the easiest body to occupy. Vanessa looked at me then, eyes wet, mouth trembling. He told me your marriage was over, she said. I looked at her for a long moment. A different woman might have found satisfaction in her pain. I found clarity. And you believed him because it gave you what you wanted, I said. She flinched. I did not owe her comfort. Diane approached, pale and rigid. Evelyn, she said, for Lily's sake we should all calm down. I almost smiled. For Lily's sake, I said, you can follow the court order. Her lips pressed together. You know I love my granddaughter. You love the idea of her belonging to your family. She is family. She is a child, not a legacy project. Diane had no answer. My father stepped closer then, not in front of me but near enough that Caleb noticed. Caleb looked at him with the expression of a man who had spent years talking about power and had finally met a quieter version of it. Mr. Hart, Caleb said stiffly, I think emotions are high. We all want what's best. My father looked at him. No, he said, you wanted what was useful. Caleb's face tightened. With respect, this is between Evelyn and me. It stopped being only between you when you tried to take her child by making her abandonment look like instability. Caleb looked away first. That should have satisfied something in me. It didn't. I did not want Caleb humiliated forever. I did not want him destroyed in some cinematic blaze. I wanted something colder and more permanent. I wanted him irrelevant to my sense of worth. Elise appeared at the end of the hallway with Lily in her arms. My daughter was awake, chewing on her fist, her eyes wide and serious. I walked to her. The moment I took her, the noise of the courthouse seemed to recede. Hi, baby, I whispered. We're going home. Home for months. The word had meant the apartment where I cried quietly so Caleb could sleep, the nursery he entered only when watched, the kitchen where I found lipstick on a glass and tried to convince myself love did not leave stains. Now home meant something else, a room at my father's house for now, a crib by a window, a court order in my folder, a future not built around Caleb's mood. Outside the courthouse, the air was cold enough to sting. Reporters were not waiting. There was no public spectacle, no crowd chanting justice. Life rarely wraps vindication in music. People hurried past with coffee cups, briefcases, parking tickets, their own private disasters. Caleb followed me down the steps. Evelyn, he called. Nora turned, but I touched her arm. It's fine. I faced him. He stood 2 steps above me, as if even now his body searched for height. I don't want to lose my daughter, he said. Then learn how to be her father. His face shifted. I will. But you don't have to shut me out. I'm not shutting you out. The court gave you a path, a supervised path, a necessary one. He swallowed. And us? The question hung in the winter air. Us, there had been an us once. I would not pretend there hadn't. There were mornings with pancakes and bare feet. There were road trips with bad coffee. There were nights early in our marriage when Caleb held my hand and I believed being chosen meant being safe. But memory is not a contract. Love does not erase harm simply because it existed before it. There is no us, I said. His eyes shone suddenly, and for the first time I wondered whether he had truly not believed that until this moment. I lost my way, he said. I shook my head. No, you chose it. Vanessa came out behind him, mascara smudged, no longer polished. She looked at Caleb, then at me, then at Lily. For a second, her gaze softened. Maybe regret, maybe envy, maybe calculation, looking for a new costume. I did not care. Caleb reached toward me, not touching, almost. I stepped back. That small movement contained the whole ending. He understood it. His hand dropped. My father's car waited at the curb. Nora handed me the folder with the temporary order. Inside, my father opened the rear door, then stepped aside so I could enter first. Not guided, not managed, just given space. Before I got in, I looked once more at the courthouse. I had walked in with my baby while they thought I was alone. I walked out with my daughter, my name, my evidence, my father behind me, and myself fully returned. 3 months later, the temporary order became the foundation for a permanent custody agreement. Caleb completed parenting classes because the court required them. He attended supervised visits, sometimes awkwardly, sometimes sincerely, always watched. He learned the formula brand after it no longer mattered as a courtroom trick. He learned Lily's schedule because someone else made him prove it. The financial review forced him to reimburse marital funds. His firm did not collapse, But his reputation did not survive untouched. Men like Caleb fear scandal less than accountability. Scandal fades, accountability creates paperwork. Vanessa left the company before spring. I heard she blamed Caleb. I believed her. I also believed she blamed me. I did not answer the email she sent at midnight 6 weeks after court, the one that began, "Woman to woman, I think you should know." I deleted it. Woman to woman had not mattered to her when I was bleeding in a hospital bed. It did not matter to me when she was losing. Diane requested visits through the parenting app using language so polite it squeaked. I allowed supervised grandparent time only when it did not disrupt Lily's routine. The first time Diane saw Lily after the order, she cried. I watched without softening too quickly. Tears can be grief. They can also be negotiation. My father and I did not magically become perfect. We argued about the thermostat, the baby monitor volume, and whether Lily needed socks indoors. He bought too many wooden toys. I told him she was not being raised in a Montessori catalog. He told me plastic toys made noise like corporate training videos, but slowly, carefully, we learned each other again. One evening in May, after Lily had fallen asleep, I found my father in the library beside the piano. The cream cloth was gone. "You uncovered it," I said. "You used to play when you were upset." "I used to play badly when I was upset. You rushed the endings." I smiled. He sat on the bench and touched one key softly. "I thought about what you said," he told me. "Behind you, not in front." I meant it. "I know, I'm trying, I know." He looked toward the stairs where Lily slept in the room that had once been mine. "You're a good mother." The sentence landed with no warning. I turned away because my eyes filled too fast. "Thank you. You were before court too," he said. "That was the part one needed. Not that I had one, that I had been good before anyone proved it." In June, I moved into a small house 10 minutes from my father's, not because I had to leave, because I could. It had a blue front door, a kitchen with morning light, and a nursery that smelled like fresh paint and lavender detergent. Mrs. Allen sent a plant, Grace sent a card, Jade visited once and cried when Lily laughed at her earrings. Nora sent an email with the final signed order and one line, "You did the hard part." The law just caught up. On the first night in the new house, I carried Lily from room to room. "This is the kitchen," I told her. "This is where I'll burn pancakes and pretend they're rustic." She waved one hand. "This is the living room. We'll put your books there, not the fancy untouched ones, the ones you chew." She hiccuped. "And this," I said, entering the nursery, "is your room." The crib stood by the window, a mobile turned slowly above it. Not the one Caleb had watched me build while scrolling his phone, a new one with stars and moons and small wooden birds my father had chosen after losing an argument about whether infants appreciated craftsmanship. I laid Lily down. She blinked at me, sleepy and trusting. I thought of the courtroom, Vanessa's lipstick, Caleb's suit, my father rising behind me, the judge's voice, the way my own voice sounded when I said there was no us. People often think the moment of victory is loud. Mine was quiet. It was my daughter falling asleep in a room no one could take from us through fear. It was my phone charging on the nightstand without Caleb's name lighting it up. It was a court order in a locked drawer. Not because I wanted to live inside the battle, but because I had earned the right to keep proof that I survived it. I stood beside the crib until Lily's breathing deepened. Then I walked to the front door. For a long moment I looked out at the empty street. No Caleb in the driveway, no Vanessa at the window, no Diane telling me what legacy required, no voice behind me saying be realistic, be careful, be grateful, be quiet. I closed the door, locked it, turned off the porch light. And for the first time in a long time, the silence in my home did not feel like abandonment, it felt like peace.